This Coast to Coast video is sponsored by Philadelphia Energy Solutions.
Okay, so what I want to know is, what is it like to be a young black man in San Francisco in today's times? I mean, all we've seen is like Fruitvale Station, and that's the representation.
Yeah. It's all right. It's pretty fun. It's all right. It's an interesting. My opinion is that San Francisco is not as progressive as they like to say it is. Growing up here, I experienced a lot of really covert racism in ways, just weird stuff where you're on the bus after school and people are grabbing the purse and watching you. It's like, come on, man. I'm a high school student. I'm not even 6 feet tall. Little guy. I used to live in New York. When I turned 18, I moved to New York.
How old are you?
I'm 24 now. And I didn't get any of that out there. It was, nobody looked at me funny, nobody looked at me weird, no matter where I was, what time of night it was, because I'm just not a sketchy person. So, coming back here, I still kind of see that kind of stuff in certain parts of San Francisco. But there's enough people here who are aware of, how people should actually interact, that it kind of balances itself out for me.
And one of the things that we keep hearing is how expensive it is to live in San Francisco. And so, Oakland is a little bit more affordable, but with the tech companies and Silicon Valley and all of that, it's really difficult to live here. And the black communities have been pushed out and pushed out. So what is it like from an economic standpoint? Are you able to, I know you guys have property and everything like you said, but can you survive economically here? I'll ask you that, Terry.
Well, even as a person who has property, I still find myself struggling to maintain property in the city. The opportunities there aren't as many opportunities for people of color in general in the city, with all the tech people moving in and taking all the good jobs, and property values going up in different neighborhoods and things of that nature. So for an African American male, it's really tricky living in a city like this. There's not a lot of community togetherness anymore, because everyone's struggling, everyone's out trying to feed their family, feed themselves, and things of that nature. So a lot of people are forced to move out of the city, and
where do they go?
Places like Oakland, further East Bay, Antioch, Richmond, Sacramento, a lot of people, things of that nature. And then what's worse is we have a lot of people who come into the community who aren't originally from here, and they don't really interact with the African American community whatsoever, so that kind of causes more attention for us too.
Yeah, it does. And on that note, it is, I think, the prices to live here are pretty high. There's also, I feel like, not a lot of encouragement. In places like Philadelphia and New York, you find a larger population of black-owned businesses than here in San Francisco in particular. And I don't know why that is exactly. I haven't really figured out why there aren't that many African Americans doing as well in the city. But as I'm getting older, I'm starting, I've been working in restaurants for years and years. There's just kind of a culture in this city where, people kind of assume that you are here, you came from somewhere else with a specific goal, and almost they don't respect it if you didn't come from somewhere else.
This idea of legacy, right? Because the idea of handing down property and then what's done with that property, businesses, is that part of the problem here in San Francisco, that people who say owned businesses 100 years ago are selling to other people, or getting rid of them entirely instead of handing it down to the other generations?
It's entirely the problem, I think. That's one of the biggest problems. So especially people are selling their houses because they refinanced their loan. They were probably this close to paying it off. Something happened. They refinanced. Now they owe another $300,000, and they can't give it to the kid. So the kid, his parents used to own a house, but now he's going to be renting for the rest of his life. It's terrible.
I mean, at a point, San Francisco's doing pretty well as far as having a community basis. slowly through the 90s it kind of started fading away. When I noticed growing up here, our city is kind of defined on like, you know, passing things down. Even like you look at the graffiti tradition, like someone teaches you a tradition that's been utilized for, you know, decades before them. And there's no longer this kind of, you know, cultural exchange or cultural rite of passage or anything like that, you know, that's existing anymore with all these new people that come in and they try to assimilate and they're not really doing it correctly, and then the next generation is trying to do what the new people are doing. So there's a lot of confusion and a lot of chaos, and that does affect business, that does affect the success of the next generation, and it does play a big part.
This Coast to Coast video is sponsored by Philadelphia Energy Solutions.